Good afternoon. I'm Bill Snyder, and I will be teaching or going over. It's not really a teaching class today. It's more going over the various products that Mitsubishi has to offer. This is a product overview session, and there's 3 sessions over the next few days. We'll go over some other items as well, and so let's just get into this thing. Hopefully somebody else will come on in just a moment. But we're going to get started with the presentation here. For those of you that showed up on time. Okay. By the way, there's no video or audio necessary for this. But if you want to, you can enable your audio and ask questions. Just disable it when you're done, so there's no background noise. But hopefully you're hearing me okay. So what we're going to talk about today is the Mitsubishi M&P series, which is a mini splits. I'll probably touch briefly on some of the other products just to let you know what's available. But today's session will be on product overview of the Mitsubishi M&P product line. Okay, so here we go into session 1. And like I said, session 1 is product overview. Mostly what all the new products are and some of the old products and some ratings and that sort of thing. Tomorrow at the same time, I will be doing a Mitsubishi installation system startup and operation. And 3 days, Thursday of this week, I will be doing technology, functional overview, and troubleshooting. And technology is how internally how the equipment works, a little bit about how the piping is and the electrical circuits, and on the functional overview and troubleshooting. But the technology we'll talk about basically how the system works and is laid out, so it'll help you troubleshoot and determine how to proceed with this product line. And I'm having a little technical difficulties here. Just give me a second. Come on. Might have to revert to the good old-fashioned way of doing things here. Here we go. Now we're working again. Okay, so now we're talking about the M series nomenclature and how the model number populates and so forth. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the M here. It could be an M or an S. It's a mini split, small, light commercial, or mostly residential application starts with an M. And the next digit would indicate whether it be a single system outdoor unit like an MUZ or an MUY, are the outdoor units. But if it was an MSY, for instance, that would be a wall-mounted indoor unit, or an MV is a vertical air handler, that sort of thing. And the Z would indicate inverter heat pump, or if it was a Y, it would be cooling only. And I like to think of Y as like the yellow wire on the, it's one of the ways I remember things, is the yellow wire on the thermostat. Typically the conventional systems is yellow, so think of that as a call for cooling. So MUY or MUZ would be an outdoor single, what we call 1-to-1, one outdoor unit, one indoor unit. If it was an MXZ, like this number indicates, the X is a multi-system outdoor unit. In other words, you can have one outdoor unit that's capable of controlling multiple indoor units. In this case, the MXZ 8C, the 8 would indicate that it can control up to 8 indoor zones. Have to have at least 2 indoor zones minimum. Don't have to put all 8 on there, but you have to have at least 2 on any MXZ system. So this particular MXZ 8 would indicate that it was 8 zones. The next C there is just a generational change. It was an MXZ 8B prior to this. Now it's an 8C. And that next 48 would indicate simply 48,000 BTUs or a 4-ton, figuring a nominal 12,000 BTUs per ton. So that would be a nominal 4-ton unit. The next digits, NA, would simply be, N would be meaning it's 208, 230. All of our equipment we're going to talk about basically today is 208, 230, with the exception of one model with two versions of that model, which it'll be 115 volts that I'll cover in a few minutes. The next A is just a controls system, internal control system. You don't have to probably be too concerned with that. And then this last digit here would just be a model version. So if they make it any change at all, they will change that last digit. If it says HZ on the end, that is a hyperheat model, good for cold climates. And typically where we are located as the Larson Company, most of our branches are in a cold climate. And a cold climate designation would be that if it's going to be below, say, 36 degrees for more than 48 to 72 hours, then that would be a cold climate unit. And you would want to sell a hyperheat model. I'll talk about hyperheat in just a moment. Then the last thing that might be behind this or under it in a on the nomenclature plate, it gives you model and serial number. There's also something called a service reference number. Service reference number would be typically the model number with a couple of digits behind it. We'll talk about that later as we move on. Okay, so hyperheat. We just talked a little bit about hyperheat. A typical heat pump will function at maybe down to 0, maybe 32 degrees, and then you'll shut it off. They're all rated at 47 degrees and 17 degrees. Everybody's, whether it be a Mitsubishi, a Train, American Standard, Lennox, Carrier, whoever, everybody's heat pumps are rated at 47 and 17 degrees. A typical heat pump they're all rated at 47. So a typical heat pump, any heat pump will give you its, what they call 100% rated capacity, would be at 47 degrees. So if we had, for instance, a 3-ton heat pump, 36,000 BTU heat pump, it would give you 36,000 BTUs if it's rated at 47 degrees, and at 17 degrees is typically about 60% less capacity. So a 36,000 BTU heat pump at 47 degrees, the typical one at 17 degrees is going to give you about 21,600 BTUs. Now this red line here that we're showing across the top is our hyperheat unit. Our hyperheat unit will give you 100% rated capacity. The same capacity you get at 47 degrees, you'll get that all the way down to 5 degrees. So at 5 degrees, we're still getting our 100% rated capacity. Incidentally, Mitsubishi's typical 3-ton, we're talking about 3-ton heat pump, is 36,000 BTUs rated for cooling, and our heat pumps rated 45,000 BTUs for heat pump at 47 degrees. So at 5 degrees, we're still getting 47,000 BTUs on it. At minus 13, it's going to drop down to 70 to 80%, 75%, right around their capacity. So this same 3-ton heat pump, which is giving us 45,000 BTUs of heat at 47 degrees, is going to give us about 34,000 BTUs at minus 13. So we're getting 34,000 at minus 13. Our competition is getting 36,000 here, and right here at 17, they're going to get about 21,600. Depends on the equipment, the rating, but that's generally how it works. So you can see our equipment at minus 13 outperforms most any other heat pump at 17 degrees on the market. So even Mitsubishi standard heat pump will give you about 60% rated capacity at 17 degrees, but the hyperheats go a lot lower. So you can see why in our market, hyperheat does kind of make a lot of sense. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the Mitsubishi lineup, the M series. Here's all of the various models, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in detail, but you can see there's an MSZ. That's what we're talking about, M for mini. SZ would mean that it was, S would indicate it's a wall mount unit, Z would be heat pump. So on this page, every one of these is rated as a heat pump wall unit. These across the top here will all work on the MXZ multi-zone outdoor unit. This particular MSZ EF model, it comes in black, silver, or it looks like stainless steel, and a bright white. These will only work on the MXZ outdoor units. Some of these other units will work on other pieces of equipment that we'll talk about in the next few minutes. But these are all M series and all heat pump on this particular page. When we get to this page, you'll see there's some M series, like an MLZ ceiling cassette, an MFZ low wall, sometimes referred to as floor mounted. This actually mounts on the wall low, close to the floor, typically above the molding, above the mop board. And then there's the SLZ ceiling cassettes and the SEZ air handlers. And then there's a PEAD unit, which is part of the P series, but it will work on the MXZ. Every one of these units here on this page will work on the multi-zone system as well. This is an air handler that's a multi-position. We'll talk about it. But I wanted to show you this page because the previous page, let's go back. This page here all starts with the letter M. This next page, there's two units, this unit here and this unit here, that start with the letter M. They all come with a remote control. So all of the indoor model numbers that start with the letter M come with a remote control. If it doesn't start with an M, starts with something else, you have to use some other type of control that I'll mention as we progress forward. This page also has MSY units, MSYGL, MSYDs. These units are cooling only. They're only good for cooling only. Okay, now, M series cooling only units. These units, again, we're talking about just product today, no service or installation related, but this is product. This M series cooling only is MSY. It's available in A, D, GL, and GE models. Again, starts with the letter M, so because it starts with the letter M, it comes with a remote control. These are available in capacities 9,000 through 36,000. It's a 1-to-1, in other words, one indoor unit, one outdoor unit. The SEER on this goes up to as high as 23.2 SEER. It's got a good airflow, super quiet at 19 decibels. This is a value line. This is an MSZ-HM value line. This one, as you'll notice, is 18 SEER. Comes in 9, 12, 15, 18, and 24,000 BTUs. It's 22 decibels, so it's a little bit louder, still whisper quiet than the standard units, but it's a little bit less expensive, more affordable, better value for some people because it's 18 SEER, which is still 18 SEER is a phenomenal SEER rating for this equipment. But it's a little less expensive because it's 18 SEER. Now, also, I wanted to mention, this is the standard heat pump. This is not a hyperheat pump. All standard units All standard heat pumps, non-hyperheats, do not come with a base pan heater. The base pan heater sits in the bottom tray here. It would sit right in this area here. Without it, you build up ice and freeze, and you can actually crush, the ice can actually crush the bottom coil here. So you'd have to add a base pan heater in our standard heat pump models. And typically, if you're going to be below 36 degrees for more than 24 to 72 hours, right in there, in a winter, you really require a base pan heater. So most of our territories that we support do require a base pan heater. Now here's another value line. It's the second value line. This is a MSZWR. This one though is only down to 16 SEER, so it's a little less expensive than the other one. Again, 16 SEER is still very, very good quality unit. What makes it a little less expensive is I think it's only a 4-speed fan in the outdoor unit and the indoor unit. The remote control is a little bit defeatured. It doesn't have like a night setback function timer on the remote control. So if you'd want to set it to come on in 12 hours, you can do that, but you're going to have to set it every single day on this particular model. With the standard models, you can set it and forget it. Okay, this is an M series heat pump. Now this one is a hyperheat, so it does come with a factory installed base pan heater. Now, again, in our markets, this probably is the best value because that heater is not an inexpensive item to add, plus you have the labor to install it. This assures if you buy a hyperheat, all of our hyperheat units come with the factory installed base pan heater. Now this particular model is the MSZ is available in A, D, all these model numbers up here, FH, GA, GE, those series. This particular one is an FH that's pictured here with the 2 louvers. I'll get into a little bit more detail on that as we go forward. You'll notice the remote on this unit is a little bit nicer than the previous one. Now these come in capacities of 6,000 BTUs all the way up to 36,000 BTUs. So a very wide variety of units are available here. And these series go all the way up to 33.1, and HSPF, which is a performance factor for heat pumps, up to 13.5. This model here comes right down here underneath it in the lower right-hand corner, comes with what they call an IC sensor, which can scan the room and keep the room at a better occupied temperature. Because it's got the IC sensor and the better remote, we can also set it for if there's nobody in the room, it'll go unoccupied and it'll shift the set point a few degrees to hopefully save a little energy. It can also, because of the IC sensor, it can sense humans in the room, and it can decide if you want it to blow air at that person or away from that person. So if the person doesn't like the air blowing on them, this particular unit can set to cool the room and not blow directly on somebody, or you can use it to blow on somebody. And it's a 3D IC sensor because it actually can determine a human walking in the room versus a pet. So it will only turn on and try to follow the human and not Fido. Okay, now this particular heat pump is an SUZ outdoor unit. Notice it starts with the letter S. So because it starts with the letter S, we have to put some sort of controls on it. This unit does not have any infrared sensor on it, so you will not have the infrared remote. In this case, that is a simple MA control, which is a 2-wire, just 2 18-gauge thermostat wires go up to this particular head, which can mount in a drop ceiling. This is designed to go between a 2-foot by 2-foot ceiling panel. It's only about 10 inches high, so that there's no, don't have to have a whole lot of room above it if you mount it in the ceiling. But it is too wide to put between floor joists or ceiling trusses that are 24-inch on center. So just keep that in mind. It has to hang below, not fit between two foot on center floor joists. These two models here are wireless controls. This middle one here is being phased out, and this one is being phased in. These are controls that are made by Honeywell for Mitsubishi. They link up wirelessly between the indoor head and the thermostat via red link, and when they hook up, they know what they're hooking up to. They're going to know on this model, for instance, there's 4 louvers around the outside, so it knows that there's 4 louvers to control. It knows if it's a heat pump, if it's cooling only. So there's a lot of default stuff that just automatically downloads. And the default for these is to sense the temperature at this remote control, or at this, looks like a thermostat, at the controller. This one, you have to go into the menu and tell it you want it to measure the temperature there. And by the way, on all of the wall mount units that start with M, that come with a remote control, none of those remote controls sense temperature at all. They're just a remote control. They're designed to turn the equipment on, off, and to just like a TV. You turn the TV on, you set the volume, you set the channel, you put the remote down, and it stays there. The temperature sensing is done up at the indoor unit. It actually senses temperature because a fan is running, drawing a little air across it. It's like a return air sensor that senses the room temperature. Where these controls here can sense it right down in the space where you are. So this unit, for instance, if this was up in a 20-foot high ceiling, it might be a few degrees warmer at the ceiling than these units down in the space. So I highly suggest you use these. I love these controls. They're very, very flawless. They work great, easy to install. Simple. You push a button that says connect, push a button on the thermostat that says connect. They connect together, and you're pretty much done. You can go in and make some adjustments to auto set points and things like that, or you can set timers in here. These do actually do set up and set back. In our climate, I'm not a huge fan of setting back a heat pump, because the heat pumps may not recover if it's below zero. It's going to take a while for that heat pump to actually come up to speed and get the home comfortable. This indoor unit is available now at a 9, 12, 15, and just recently added an 18,000 BTU. Sears up to 16 SEER, 9.6 HSPF for heat pump. Like I said, they're 2x2 ceiling cassette. These have a built-in condensate lift mechanism. It's not a pump. It literally, because the drain is in the actually below the ceiling, it sucks water out and slings it out the side. So it literally lifts it up and out towards the top of this unit, and it doesn't pump, it just lifts the water out, and then you gravity feed from here into a drain or into another pump if you have to pump it someplace. These units have a deodorizing filter. It also, in the corner up here, one of these corners, it has the ability to take in some outdoor air. In our climate, we like to run that outdoor air through like an ERV first to kind of temper it, but you can bring fresh air into this for commercial buildings. This is a standard heat pump, so a base pan heater and a thermostat or control is required. This is an Scc Air Handler. The Scc Air Handler is a very, very low silhouette, probably about 8 inches tall. So it's will easily mount in a small area. Some hotels mount them right above the in the little hallway into the space. They put it above the ceiling, so they'll drop the ceiling down, you know, 8, 9, 10 inches and put this unit in there. And then they just put a grill on here and blow it out into the room and put a return grill in the bottom. This unit here is designed for that type of application. It will not do a whole lot of, it won't do a whole lot of static. So just be aware that this you can't put, you know, 40 feet of duct on this thing. It's designed for just a few feet of duct and just a couple of takeoffs. On this particular air handler, I'll show you another one in a minute that will do a lot more static. This one is available 9, 12, 15, 18,000 BTUs. It's about 17.5 SEER, a little bit higher HSPFs to 10. It does have an adjustable static, but again, this is a low static pressure unit. You can put an electric heater, which is a third-party add-on in this, and we have to add a little relay to turn the heater on. So you could sell this unit as a heat pump and add a little electric heat and be able to control the temperature at very low ambience. This unit is a low wall or floor mounted unit. It's extremely, moves the air around the room very, very well. This has got a return that's down close to the floor. It's got a louver in the front here and louvers on the top, which will throw the air out and about. This one here on the bottom can actually, during the startup or warm up, can throw the air down so it recirculates a little bit, so it's putting out extremely hot air out the top. And these are capacities of 9, 12, 15, and 18. There is one other mini split manufacturer out there. I don't remember who it is that makes a version of this. This one, though, does outperform that tremendously, and they do not have 4 sizes. I think they've got 2 or 3 sizes. So this is definitely a plus on the Mitsubishi side. And again, the SEERs on this go all the way up to 28.5, which are very, very good. And the HSPFs is 13. Very smooth design. This could be partially recessed into the wall if it was new construction, or it can be mounted right on the wall. And it mounts above the floor. You need a few inches under it. So this mounts on the wall. It could be mounted on the floor. If you're going to take your refrigerant lines down through the floor, that could be done. It can be done both sides. It can come out, the refrigerant lines out this side or the other side or down. You've got lots of options on this, but typically it hangs above the floor by about 4 inches. You drill a hole in this lower right-hand corner and your refrigerant lines go out there. Refrigerant lines, your electrical, and your condensate all go out the same hole. It's got a rapid heat function that's phenomenal. It really throws a lot of heat very fast. This is designed, it's a single and multi-connection. In other words, it'll work with the MXZ. It originally was only available with the MXZ, but I'll show you in a minute. There's a new outdoor condensing unit that allows us to use some of these pieces of equipment on one-to-one with a one outdoor and one indoor unit. Okay, this is a heat pump. This MSZ, MVZ, or MVZ or SVZ air handler. There's 2 models of that. I'll talk to you a little bit. The MVZ is a little taller than the SVZ. They've made it as a design change. The MVZ will be going away. Essentially, it's the same unit, only the SVZ is a little bit shorter. They've taken the electrical panel and moved it from the top down by the blower and chopped about 10 inches off of this for the SVZ. So the board, the PC board, is mounted down here just in front of the blower, just like we do in the States on furnaces. Exact same type design. In fact, this unit was designed in the United States by US engineers in Atlanta, and it's built in Baja, California. So it's a North American piece of equipment. And this unit will put out almost an inch of static. if you so desire. So you can move a lot of air with this. It's multi-position, it's upflow, downflow, horizontal left and horizontal right. It's available in a 1 ton all the way up through 36,000 BTUs. Has an optional electric heater you can throw on the top. And I've had people put hot water coils on these as well. Again, a third-party coil will go on there, and we just open and close the zone valve if we need to. It is a push through. The blower's in the bottom. The coil sits in here. So it pushes through the coil. The condensate drain is pressurized on this unit. This is the only unit that it is. If you're going to convert this to downflow, you basically remove this coil, pull it out, flip the unit over, and put the coil back in. You want to keep the drain on the bottom. That's what you're trying to do there. So. And this cabinet can be totally disassembled. So if you had to go into a crawl space through a little opening or up into an attic, this is designed to be able to take apart. So it's kind of a neat design. Now this is a one-way sealing cassette. There's one louver on this one. The one I showed you earlier, the 2 foot by 2 foot, had 4 louvers on it. This one only has the one louver. It's only 14 and 11/64 wide, so it fits between 16-inch on-center floor joists or ceiling trusses. So if you had to go up into a ceiling in an attic or something, this would be the one to use. Every serviceable part is serviceable from below. So you don't have to have an access panel to get up into the side of this thing. It's all serviceable from below. Your electrical and refrigerant lines come in the ends here, and so you can literally cut a hole in the ceiling and run all your tubing and everything out the outside wall and put this up in a bedroom or something like that. That's kind of a neat, unique design. And it starts with, it's an MXZ. It goes with an MXZ or SUZ outdoor unit, so it's a multi-zone or a single 1-to-1 zone. And it starts, the model number is an MLZ, so it starts with an M, so it comes with a remote control. So there's an infrared receiver in this unit. CN105 connector. CN in Mitsubishi language is a connector. CN stands for connector. So connector 105 is in every single indoor piece of equipment Mitsubishi makes. It allows you to plug in the receiver for the controls I mentioned earlier, the red link controls, or there's a number of different types of control systems, Wi-Fi systems and all we can plug in to this. There's only one CN105 on each of the indoor units, and this one has it as well, even though it comes with a remote control, so you have some flexibility there. This one also has a built-in lift mechanism like I talked about in the 4-way sealing cassette, and also in that little air handler that has a lift mechanism in it as well, which literally lifts the water up and slings it out the side. This says 21 inches, but that's the outlet here. It's 21 inches from the ceiling up that it will throw the mist out, so that you can gravity feed into a drain or condensate pump, or let it run out and water the flowers out in the garden if you wanted to. This is a brand new product that came out the end of last year, and they just introduced this year a hyperheat version of this. These are the outdoor units. And these are kind of what they consider a universal outdoor unit. It isn't totally universal, but it allows each of these units that used to be only able to communicate with the MXZ multi-zone unit. Now you can sell these products on a 1-to-1 as well. So that sealing cassette, for instance, can be one outdoor unit, one sealing cassette. So it's kind of a nice thing. And again, there's a new model that came out this year in 2020, which is a hyperheat model, and it's available in sizes 9, 12, 15, and 18. The non-hyperheat is all the way up through 3 tons. I assume that they'll be expanding on this line, but this is what's available right now in the market. Now, last year, Mitsubishi introduced a 115 volt inverter driven heat pump. They used to have a non-inverter heat pump years ago. It was just like a typical unit. The contactor pulled in, the compressor went to 100% and shut off. They stopped production on that and came up with, and that was a cooling only unit. This unit's 115, 120 volt inverter driven heat pump. So it's a one-to-one heat pump. It's got many of the same features. Like I say, that connector 105 for control systems, although it starts with an M, so it comes with a remote control. And you can see the sears on these are about 17 sear. And the rated ampacity of this thing is, I believe you can put either one of these, a 9 or 12,000 on a 15 amp circuit. So this would be easier to add in some cases than the 230 volt units, because usually 115 volts is accessible in certain areas easier. Okay, this is a multi-zone unit, and this multi-zone unit is the MXZ that we talked about. This particular is the MXZ 8C48NA. That's the model number we used for an example earlier on. It's a two fan unit, pretty it's narrow but fairly tall. And then this would be the MXZ 3, 4, and 5 ton unit. No, not 3, 4, and 5 tons. 3, 4, and 5 zone unit. They also make a 2-zone unit. The MXZ 2C20 is a 2-zone. And then there's a 3-zone, 3 ports on the outdoor unit, 3 ports on the 24 and 30, 4 ports on the 36, 5 ports on the 42, and on the MXZ 8C48 or 60, 4 and 5 ton units require a branch box. This branch box number with the 50 in there would indicate it would be 5 zones. This picture showing 3 zones. There's a high and a low side. There's 3 sets there. So just to give you an idea. So that's the standard heat pump. So that requires a base pan heater. But keep in mind that if you're doing the 4 and 5 ton unit and the standard unit, you do have to have a branch box. Now the branch box can make it easier, can make it more difficult. Just be aware that there's 2 pipes, a high and a low side, almost like a suction and liquid line that run from the branch box to the outdoor unit. Then all of the connections are being made inside a space. It can be in an attic. It doesn't have to be a conditioned space, but it has to be out of the weather, because this is not a UL NEMA rated outdoor box. We do make a box that will cover it, that you can mount this outside, but typically it's mounted up in the basement or down in the basement or up in an attic, or maybe in a closet inside. I've seen some of these mounted in linen closets that actually worked out very well. But all your lines then have to go to this, and then you have to also figure out where you're going to run your condensate. So using this type of unit can be a little bit of a challenge at times. So just be aware of that. Here's another way of looking at it. Put a little pictures in the bottom. These are the types of air handlers, indoor air handlers. These are the model number of those air handlers that will go with these outdoor units. And again, the 4 and 5 ton does require a branch box. So you can see certain models, like you take a look at this as a P series ceiling suspended unit. We haven't talked about it yet. There's only one model that'll work with. So this chart is in the latest catalog. Now this is the MXZ Hyperheat model. This one does come with a factory installed base pan, and on the 3.5 and 4 ton units require a branch box here. So the 20,000, 24, and 30 do not. So if you need 42,000 BTUs and don't want to use a branch box, you would have to go back to this unit here and sell the non-hyperheat unit. So there gives us some options. Hopefully this makes sense. And this is the multi-zone hyperheat unit here. And you can see all of the different types of equipment here that work with it. So there's a lot of options when you're using a multi-zone unit. Again, this is hyperheat, and it does come with a factory installed base pan. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about MyLink Drive. MyLink Drive is a free website. You don't need a password to get into it. You just have to type in your browser MyLink Drive in Google, and it'll find it, or just at www.mylinkdrive.com. It's MyLinkDrive is all you have to type, and it'll come up with a page that looks something like this. Might come up with another page first that says, if you're in the US, click here. If you're in the Caribbean or South America, click here. Obviously, you want to pick US. The main differences is US, we use 60 cycles of power, and all of our equipment is UL rated. And in other parts of the country, it is not. So what we stock is the UL rated equipment that is designed for 60 cycles of power. So we've got a home screen, which is what we're looking at here. You can look up all the accessories, controls. M series and P series are what we're talking about today. Those are on here. This R2, S, and Y series is city multi-commercial equipment. Starts at 3 tons and goes up to 30 tons of equipment. And then all those 10, 20, 30 tons of equipment can be linked together, so you can do hundreds of tons in a building and tie it all together through a control system. That's a whole different thing that we're not talking about today, but just be aware that it is available. Ventilation, these are ERVs. This is, I don't know how this got into our line, but jet towels are those hand dryers that you see in some buildings. You put your hand under and it dries. That's made by Mitsubishi. Software is available on here to download. There's a program we'll talk about in a couple of days called the DSB Diamond System Builder software. It's a free download. It helps pick all the equipment and verify that everything's going to work. And if you have to add refrigerant or not, that's a good program to have. Support are how to get a hold of technical support people at Mitsubishi. Any policies like warranties are all listed here. App notes, application notes. Tech tips is phenomenal. There's little videos, little 2-minute videos on how to disassemble the equipment and how to clean the fans, and how you can go out to your truck and in 2 minutes watch this thing on your cell phone, because this website is available. It's friendly to an Apple or an Android phone, so you can look at all this stuff through your phone. And the tech tips is got some really good little videos that are, like I say, about 2 minutes long. You can watch a little video out in your truck and then go in and service the equipment and have it take you a lot less time, and you'll look very, very professional if you know how to perform the tasks. There's some technical notes in here and some literature in here. But if you click here on M series, which we're talking about right now, is the M series, you're going to come up with a page that looks like this. You'll notice at the top, these are R410 systems. These are the newest systems at the top. If you page down, there's some old R22 systems here. There's more heads below this. If you keep paging down, you can see some of the old equipment in here. So you can look up any type of equipment that Mitsubishi has made over the years, should be listed on this MyLink Drive. I just clicked on M and I came to this page. If I click on wall-mounted units, all the wall-mounted units that are available will come up, and all the specifications on them. At this point, I'm going to click on outdoor unit here, and I'm going to come up with a page that looks like this. And all of the outdoor units are on here. As you can see, it's kind of cut off at the bottom. If you keep paging down, there's a lot of different outdoor units that are available. Some of them will tell you like 2016 to current, 2016 to current. You might have some that was manufactured 2016 to 2020 and stopped. So you can tell how old some of this equipment is. You pick the model number. Actually, you're picking the model number or the service reference number. You're going to pick the service reference number, which is underneath the model number on the nameplate. You're going to click on that, and you're going to come up with something that looks, a page that looks like this. This is an MXZ5C42 is what I clicked on. You'll notice that all the accessories, applications, compatibility charts, engineering material, the installation book, marketing, parts, service book, and submittals are on here. Installation guide comes with the equipment. None of this other literature comes with the equipment, just the installation guide. If it requires service, you'd click on service guide and it would walk you through all the service tips. Again, we'll talk about that in the next couple of days. But this is where you would go for that information. If you're selling the equipment and want some information, I'd go to submittals. Down here is, if you keep paging down, there's more accessories. This right here is the base pan heater accessory we talked about. This is a non-hyperheat, so there's a heater available for this. If you click here on submittals, it's going to come up with multiple pages that look like this. I'm not going to, I know you can't read this. This is kind of blurry, but the first page looks something like this. Up at the top of the page here are accessories. And down here, as you get down here, are all the specifications. The specifications is the wiring size, the amp draw, so that the service breaker, you can determine what size breaker you need. It gives you your piping diameters. It gives you your piping lengths, minimum, maximum lengths, the height difference, the minimum, maximum, how many feet of separation you can have. All that is typically on page 1. Page 2, and this is an MXZ. There's some notes up here that's giving you your efficiency of the various indoor heads that are on the unit. Then there's a note page down here that you might reference. The notes, this happens to be for a 3C30. It's telling you the minimum installed capacity is 12,000 BTU. So on this 30,000 unit, you could put enough heads to just give you 12, like put 2 6s on here. That's fine. You have to have a minimum of 2 indoor heads on all MXZ units. So those 2 indoor heads could be 12,000 BTUs. That's fine. Total connected capacity cannot exceed 130%. What that's saying is if you sell a 4-ton unit and you put 5 1-ton heads on it, that's 60,000 BTUs a head. That's acceptable. It will work, but you're not going to get 60,000 BTUs out of it. You're only going to get what the outdoor unit can do, which is 48,000. As 1 or 2 of those heads start backing off and satisfying, then refrigerant will go to the other heads. So you don't have to come out exactly to, in this case, 30,000 or 48,000 BTUs. There's a little fudge built into this. And this submittal will tell you what you can and can't do, and the Diamond System Builder will also do that. The only time that 130 comes in question is if you're using that big green air handler, the SVZ or MVZ air handler. We can't do multiple units of that. You can do up to 2 on most of the equipment, but then if you're going to do that, you can't exceed that 100. You can't exceed 100%. You can't go to 130. Also on MXZ units, you should not do auto changeover. Auto changeover is where it switches from heating to cooling. All zones should be in heat or all zones should be in cooling. Auto changeover does not work. If you've got, going to put this in a small commercial building and you got a server room that's going to constantly call for cooling and everybody else is going to call for heat, this will not work. It will not switch over and you're going to have an unsatisfied person. You'd be better off putting a separate unit in that server room. all zones should be similar zones. So in a house where you want to keep every room at 72 degrees, and you know that it's cold out today, so we'll be in the heat mode, that's fine. It's a conscious decision the homeowner makes to turn all of them into heat mode. That's fine. Only this particular unit says only one MVZ system can be used, one air handler on this 30. On the 4-ton, I believe we can use 2, but that's all found in these notes. So if you ever have a question on this, this is the submittal data is the best place to find that information, or give us a call, and we'll walk you through it. This type page shows up on the MXZs, and what this is the number of heads and the type of heads. So you might put a 9, a 6, and a 12, and it would tell you the capacities here. There may be several pages of these. So this will tell you if it will work or won't work with that 130,000 or 130%. The last page is nothing more than the dimensional data, how far away from the wall you can mount it, and so on and so forth. On the outdoor units, the MXZs come with multiple ports. Some of them say a 5C 42 has got 5 ports. On that, they're not all 1/4 3/8. They might be 1/2 inch and 3/8, or 1/2 and 5/8. So there's port adapters that you can put on there, and then there's a sheet that all of our branches have available that will show Mitsubishi's part number for those ports, and like the JB number equivalent that we would have available. Incidentally, heat pumps, all heat pumps have to be mounted up on a stand, because when they go through defrost, water pours out the bottom of them. So just not just elevated on a platform. We don't want to do that. It has to be totally open under it, so water will fall off and freeze on the ground rather than build up and crush that bottom coil. Okay, we're going to talk about P series here briefly. PKA. The P would be a professional series. We consider very much the same as on the M series. The model number is very similar. The K in this case would indicate that it's a wall-mounted indoor unit. Like a PKA is a wall-mounted unit. If it was a PUY or PUZ, it would be an outdoor heat pump. The PK is a wall-mounted unit. The A indicates that it is available for both heating and cooling. So this wall unit, the PK wall unit, can be used for both heat pump and cooling only. The M series cannot. You have a separate cooling only wall unit for Mitsubishi M series and a different one for the heat pump. But on the P series, they're available to use both heating and cooling. And if this was a PUY, it would be a cooling only, and a PUZ would be an outdoor heat pump. The next unit would be a generation change. The P series, if it has an HA right there, that would be hyperheat. Be a lot nicer if they could put that at the end and call it an HZ like they do on the mini splits, the M series, but P series were made in a different factory, different engineers, and those people decided to put the HA in there in the P series would mean it's a hyperheat. Just like in the M series, the 24 is the nominal BTU capacity. I say nominal because it's not necessarily exactly 24. You go to the submittal data and you might find this is 27,000 BTUs, or it might be 22,000 BTUs, but it's a nominal 2-ton. So you just be careful of that when you're selecting equipment, just like the American products that we sell. The system controls sequence similar to what the M series were, and the last digit is a model version. And then Some of these might say BS. That's a blue spray, which is a seacoast protection. Kind of looks like this. It's got a bluish tinge on the outdoor unit. If it was in a corrosive atmosphere, it would have that on it. Some of the equipment now is coming with a blue spray on it, whether you order it or not. So just be aware of that. If you see a little bluish tinge to it, it's actually a better unit. It's made to stand up to corrosion better than a standard aluminum unit. And then there's a service reference number again, which would be listed right under the model number on the nameplate. And you would, if there's a service reference number, that's what we need if you're calling in for parts, and that's what you need to use when you're loading up something on MyLink Drive. Okay, just like the M series, the PKA wall series looks very similar to the M series. Be aware it doesn't start with the letter M. It starts with a P. So there is no remote control. You have to add some sort of control to this system. Again, there's the same type of controls we talked about earlier. You can put a remote control on this. You have to install a receiver up in the unit and a transmitter here or a handheld. There is a Wi-Fi device, so you can contact this through a cell phone. And then there's various other type of controls that are used on this as well. This particular PKA unit is available in 1 ton through 3 tons, 28,000 BTUs available. Now, the P series, this is a cooling only unit. The P series is what we would use. It's a professional series, is what we would use in like a server room application. Out of the box, it's good to, I think, 0 degrees, no, 23 degrees or something like that out of the box. If you put a front wind baffle on it, you put the front baffle on it, it's good to 0. If you put the front, side, and back, this unit is now good down to -40. So on that model number nomenclature that we talked about, if it ends in a -7, it's capable of going down to -40. So this is what you would use in like a server room, elevator equipment room, that sort of thing, where you need cooling even in the very, very low ambient conditions. Okay, the P series, same thing. Ceiling suspended unit is the same thing. That's capable of, if it's a cooling only, doing low ambient cooling down to -40. This particular unit is a ceiling suspended. It hangs from the ceiling or mounts tight to the ceiling. All of your connections are made in this back corner. And this does have ventilation air available. You can suck some outside air in for a commercial site. And these are available 24 through 42,000 BTUs, and they throw air over long distances. And in the submittal data or on this little book here that is called the Pocket Reference Guide, it lists the airflow for all of this equipment we've talked about. And this particular unit has the furthest airflow. So this would work very well in a large room. By the way, P series has no multi units. They're all 1-to-1, one outdoor, one indoor units. This is a P series ceiling cassette, similar to what we saw in the M series. This is bigger. This is like 30 by 30 on these particular units. These are available in 18 through 42,000, 21.5 SEER. These have a built-in lift mechanism in them, just like the other units we talked about earlier, so that you can lift the condensate up and out on this particular unit. Hang on, there we go. Sorry about that. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me. What are we talking about here? Built-in condensate. Oh, this has got a knockout for ventilation on this too, so you can bring in fresh air into it. Then up here, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if I can, right here. I can't see it too well. but there's a knockout here that's either a 6-inch or it's like 4x8 or something. You can bring a branch run off of this thing, so you could throw a little extra air. If this thing was fairly close to another room, you could take a little air off and throw it into, say, a closet or a bathroom or something. Just get a little air movement into additional room with this particular unit. So that's kind of nice. This rounded design on the corners and all is going away, and it's this grill was just announced, actually just announced today, that this new type of grill will start coming out here next month on this particular unit. The unit itself is the same, all these specifications are the same. It's a new modern design to the part that you see in the space. Makes it a little bit nicer looking. The P series also has this air handler that's like the MVA and the SVZ. This PVA is, again, a very high static. It develops almost 1 inch of static, and it's an upflow, downflow, horizontal application. It has, this one's available in 1 ton through 42,000 BTUs, and you do have to put controls with it. You can also put electric heat available on it as well. Horizontal ducted unit, this PEAD, which you can also use on the MVZ multi-units we talked about. This is develops a little bit more static pressure. I think it's 6 or 8/10 of an inch of static. So it's a lot better than the smaller unit we talked about earlier today. So this is the one we use a lot, especially if you're going to put electric heat and some ductwork on, because this one here you can go all the way up to 42,000 BTUs. And this also has a built-in condensate lift mechanism. It also has 2 drains on the bottom. So if this is hanging above a ceiling, you don't want to use that lift mechanism and drain directly out of the bottom pan, you can. There's a drain on this side and this side. One's a little higher than the other. By the way, anytime you're using an air handler like this or the previous one we just showed you, you should put a disaster pan under it in case there is a leak. Anytime this equipment is mounted above a ceiling, you sure don't want any water dripping on the ceiling. So it's got adjustable static. Again, doesn't start with the letter M, so you do require additional controls on these. Here's the baffles I was talking about, the wind baffles. There's the front, rear, and side wind baffles, and it'll give you a -40 for cooling only units. It's 23 degrees without the wind baffle. With only the front wind baffle, 0, and if you put all 3, you get -40. That's for the cooling only. The heat pumps are 23 degrees cooling, and if you put a front wind baffle on, it will cool down to 0. But if you're selling a heat pump, you probably don't need cooling. You're going to need some heat, and you probably don't need to cool down in those low ambient conditions anyway. Okay, almost, we're kind of wrapping it up here. Just wanted to tell you about some technical support. Mitsubishi has a MyLink drive we talked about, so you can get all the technical support you need as far as literature on MyLink drive. You can contact Mitsubishi technical support at customercare@hvac.mea. That's Mitsubishi Electric America is what that stands for, .com, at that 800 number. You can contact any one of our service advisors directly. We've got a new one right here that just started not too long ago, Keith out of Denver. And right here, there is a technical service number that almost everybody on here monitors, and that is 800-827-9508, and just hit option 2. Or if you call your local branch, they can transfer you to this extension. Or you can call that line direct at the 656-4300. number as well. Just note that there's 3 people on here, Sean, Dan, and Scott, that primarily are city multi people. So you probably don't want to call them direct on M&P. If you have a city multi commercial equipment question, those guys would be the guys to contact. Although you can contact any of us and we'll try to help you. Okay, a little bit about the unit reference labels. We've talked a little bit about service reference number. You'll notice on here that MXE8C and the service reference number is one and the same. That can happen, that's fine. If that's the number, that means it's probably the very first one of the series that they've not made any changes to it. If they make any kind of change to it at all, like say the condenser fan blower motor, they changed the manufacturer or something little minor to it, they will put a service reference number in it, so we make sure we give you the right part. Say the electronic board, they had to make a change in it. As long as that change doesn't affect the efficiency and the ratings of the equipment, then they can change the service reference number and leave the model number the same. If it makes a change in the SEERs or anything like that, then they have to actually change the model number. But if they just replace some minor part or even major part, maybe the compressor model number is changed, they will change that service reference number. Serial numbers are way down here on the bottom on their labels. We're typically would look at model number and serial number on most of the American-made product that we look at, but in Mitsubishi, it's model number, service reference number, and then towards the bottom is the serial number. When you're calling in for technical support or parts, we need the service reference number and the serial number when you call in. You'll also notice the label has a QR reader. You can take a picture of that on your cell phone, or if you have a QR reader app on your cell phone, it'll tell you what the service reference number is and the serial number. So sometimes it's hard to get to see the label because you're on a ladder looking or something. If you can just snap this with a QR reader, you'll get all the information you need. Now in this one, you'll notice that the model number up here ends in 12AA4, but the service reference number is 12AA4, and then there's a space and an MX. That's what we're talking about. We would need that whole service reference number. And it's available on M series and P series and indoor and outdoor units. So here's another couple examples. Here's a PUZ A18 HA4. This is HA4R1. That would be the service reference number there. And this one is in a little box called U1, if you can see that. Right there. Right there, U1. So the model number ended in NA2, but the service reference has a U1 behind it. Okay. What does that mean for you? Here's an example that I just pulled off of the literature nomenclature. This particular MUZ-MUY model number, let's look at this MUZ-GL09NA was the original number, and then they made a change and made it an NAU1. They changed it again and made it an NAU2. Well, what does that mean is, for instance, this is the difference here between the U1 and the U2 right there. Okay, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Come on, there we go. The U1 used a different compressor than the U2. The four-way valve is different between the two units. The reversing coil is different. The inverter PC board is different. So it's really critical. You don't just call in and say, I've got a MUZ-GL09 and ask for a part, because we could send you the wrong part. Make sure you get the service reference number, which is the couple digits all the way at the far right, and under the line called service reference number. We're so used to giving model and serial number. In this case, give us the service reference number and serial number.
Sounds good.
Okay,
You bet.
M-series equipment, heat pumps and cooling units. These on the M-series, the cooling units are separate model numbers, and you can kind of see what the difference is in the equipment. On the MXZ, we talked about these top ones are the non-hyper heats, the bottoms are the hyper heats. I just wanted to show you there is a difference. Again, if you're talking model number, if you don't tell us the HZ on the end of the unit and you ask for a condenser fan motor on the MXZ 4C36, and it was actually a 36HZ, you can see physically they're different equipment. So just make sure you get us the right stuff. MyLink drive, we talked about it, but it's available through your cell phone, a smart device, and you can get all your install manuals, diagrams, submittals, parts. There's a M&P troubleshooter on there for help troubleshooting the equipment. So that is it for today. About an hour and 12 minutes into it. Apologize if you were thinking it was going to be an hour, but tomorrow, session 2, will be application design, installation, startup, and operation and best practices. A little bit more meat and potatoes tomorrow. And then after that, we will have session 3 on Thursday, which will be all the functions, how they work, how to troubleshoot, how the inverter works, and some troubleshooting. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. If you've got any questions, you can send them to me. I'm Bill Snyder. I'm at bill.snyder at galarson.com. bill.snyder@galarson.com, or if you want to unmute your mics and ask me a question right now, you can do that as well. Otherwise, there's no questions. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for a little bit more getting a little bit more technical tomorrow. So thank you very much. We'll talk to you guys later. I think I forgot to record it.